Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. Happy Sunday. I'm glad to be back with a new episode. Looking forward to this, catching up with a good friend. Haven't talked in a while, so I will bring her on in just a minute, but let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back. Happy Sunday, August 10th. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend. But you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Spreaker. We're on all the podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, so many different platforms there. So if wherever you consume your podcast, you can get it there. We're also on BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com, the BS3 Network Roku channel as well. And you can follow me on all the social media platforms as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest. This is a good friend of mine from in the industry as well. We met about 2 years ago in person at the Fantasy Football Expo, which is going on now as well. And I say she's one of my favorite people, and I'm being for real right now. So she knows this as well. So Kendall Valenzuela is back on the show.
Hello,
Fantasy
Marty.
football,
Hi.
Matthew Berry, Fantasy Life, senior analyst. If you fantasy football, you know her. She does it all. Daily show, all those things. So Kendall, welcome back to the show. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Courtney. Like you said, we're friends and I'm a fan of the show. So
Oh, thank you.
everyone already knows, but I'm so excited to be back. It's been too long, like
Yep.
we said before we got on here. So I'm excited for this one. This will be fun.
Yes, I'm very, very excited. I've been waiting for this, and I'm finally glad that we got to do something here. Like I said, bit busy. A lot of things has happened over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and everything too. But I'm so excited to have you back on and to catch up a little bit. So again,
Love it.
thank you for accepting the invite. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
anytime. Anytime. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Let's do it. And also, this is my Women in Fantasy Football series, so it was only right to have
Perfect.
you on this, and really blessed. I had your friend on, Samantha Holt, on a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago.
love
So
her.
I know that's one of your best friends, and so I said, look, I got to get Kendall on too. So she said, well, let's do it. She said, go ahead, just do it. I said, for sure, I'm going to ask her, and we just made it work. So I'm glad
That's
that we had some time.
awesome.
Yes,
Following up Sam Holt, that's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna try and do it. But I
oh,
appreciate it.
you can definitely do it. But shout out to Sam Holt as well. You guys are doing some great work. But how's everything been? Last 2 years. You
Yeah.
said I think it's been about a couple of years. So how's everything going?
Yeah, everything's great. I'm gearing up for another season. I'm
Yeah.
excited, to talk about all things fantasy, obviously, here and then on the website, like fantasylife.com. We've got some great upgrades and some ways to we want to make sure that everyone, no matter, if you're just starting or if you're
Mhm.
really in the weeds in fantasy football, that everyone has a chance to just dominate any type of league that they have. So I'm excited to talk with you about that. But yeah, last couple seasons have been good to us. We've had some, some good fantasy finishes. So we're here to do it again.
Yeah, that's it. And every year it's always a brand new year when it comes to fantasy
Hmm.
football and fantasy sports in general. But yeah, it's a lot changes throughout the year, each and every year, and a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I know you're gearing up for the upcoming season. How's everything going at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life? I mean, you have a daily show, and
Hmm.
I'm always listening in and always listening to the clips. And yeah, I'm preparing for my drafts coming up too, my bigger
Good.
drafts. So definitely love the Matthew Berry Fantasy Life. But how's that going so far too?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like I said, we've got if anyone listening hasn't gone over there, make sure you do because we've just got some great new. Yeah, we got the
Yeah,
magazine.
got the
Shout
magazine. I
out to
already had
Sam
it.
Holt too. We had a great team put that together. I'm
Yep.
excited to be in that. And then Sam Holt has some awesome art in there. So if you
Yep.
guys are into, the superhero kind of vibe, not to give everything away, but it's still on shelves out there. So make sure you go and check it out. But Yeah, fantasy life has really, like I said, the upgrades that we've done to make sure that you are, whether it's, in your drafts or in season, it's not just drafting. Unfortunately, unless you're doing underdog, best ball drafts, it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing for most of us. So,
Yep.
the draft's important, but then that mid-season management is where it really comes in. Like, you
Mm,
draft well, but even if you walk away from a draft and you say to yourself, I didn't get the guys I wanted, I don't love where my team's starting out, we've got everything at Fantasy Life to help you, win it all. Even if you walk away, sometimes we all have that feeling, right, Courtney? We're just like,
yeah.
could have done better, got sniped on some of
Right.
these guys, but that in-season management is obviously the bread and butter to winning your championship. So yeah, we've got everything. Our rankings are updated every single day. We've got projections for the season over there as well. I'll tell it at the end too, but I've got a promo code for you guys listening. It's Kendall 20. So KENDALL 20 gets 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription. But like I said, it's great for drafts. Like if you need rankings and tiers, it's great for in-season management as well. Waiver wire tool, everything, utilization report, everything's there to help. So Fantasy Lab's been doing, we love it over there, and the upgrades to the website have been amazing.
Yeah, the upgrades have been really amazing,
Yeah.
and I get the free newsletter each and every
Yes.
day, on the from email and everything too. Yeah, Matthew Barry's Fantasy Life, Fantasy Life is it. That's the
Thank
spot,
you.
and I'm telling you, yeah, you get, like you said, you get all the rankings, and it has a little bit of everything. The guillotine leagues, I know that's
does.
been a big thing,
Oh, love
as
guillotine
well. The
leagues.
profiles, the projections, the rankings, all those things. So everyone check it out as well. All right, let's get into some trends
Let's
that
do
you are
it.
seeing in these recent fantasy drafts. I know you do a lot of mock drafts and just drafts in general. But what trends are you seeing right now in so far over the last, say, couple weeks?
Yeah, trends, obviously, for anyone listening, it depends on what platform,
Yep.
you're drafting on and everything, but it's kind of the same thing again where these wide receivers, I think there's a significant teardrop in wide receivers when you get
Hmm.
to a specific part of the draft. Like there almost is every year, but this year feels a little bit different. There's, round 3 and 4 guys, and a lot of some of those guys have, big question marks. Either they're coming back from injuries, they're on a new team, like, a George Pickens, a DK Metcalf. There's
Right.
some guys where you think like this should work, but in the back of your mind, Courtney, you're like, but is it going to work? Is
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill going to be the Tyreek Hill of old, or am I going to spend a 3rd round pick on him where he doesn't even come close to paying off his ADP? So I would say that there's still, even with all that going on, there's still the elite good receivers at the top half of the draft. They go away really quickly, and so
Yeah.
for some of my drafts this season especially, I'm usually a 0 RB person, which if people listening don't know, 0 RB is exactly like it sounds. I don't go around the 5th, 6th round. And then I, make sure to go for the next few rounds, making sure that I get those running backs in my queue and in my drafts. And so what that does for me usually is that, I get 3 or 4 really solid, good receivers, or I go for an elite tight end, maybe if you want to sprinkle in an elite quarterback during those rounds.
Mhm.
But you make sure to go and get those guys, because to me, the tier drop off of just talent and overall production drops pretty quickly. And so I think that's been one of the bigger things that I've seen so far this season, but which we see every year. But it's one of those
Right.
things where you'll look around once you get to the 5th, 6th round and say, wow, do I want any of these guys to be my wide receiver 3? Again, depends on your format too. If you've got 2 receivers and a flex, it's a little bit different. But if you're starting, more than that for flexes or anything like that, it
Right.
gets a little difficult.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's good to know. I mean, because you said every year is different. Sometimes
yeah,
it's the running back. Sometimes it is
exactly.
the running backs are the elite of it all. And it's interesting because Jamar Chase seems like the consensus number 1 pick
Hmm.
in a lot of drafts. And then, you can say you got Justin Jefferson, you have CD Lamb, Puka Nakua, there's so many different receivers that you can get in that first, you said that first couple rounds,
Yeah.
and it does kind of drop off. So that's a really good trend to look forward to. Where do you think the drop off is? Like which, you got Brian Thomas Jr., Nico
Yeah.
Collins, Malik Neighbors, AJ Brown. Where do you see Amos St. Brown? Can't forget about him.
Yeah, can't forget
Where
about
you can't
him.
give Amos St. Brown, Drake London. Where do you see that drop off?
Yeah.
Is it at Tyreek Hill? I'm just looking at the rankings.
Yeah,
Fantasy.
I think after, and again, it depends. The ADPs are so different across
Yeah.
platforms, but I think it's after, after or into that, that fourth round, you
Okay.
have
Yeah.
question marks. It's funny enough that I said this the other day to a couple people, but I've actually really enjoyed drafting at the back half of drafts this season than getting the
Okay.
first 5 picks. I've actually really enjoyed, 6+ because I think you're in a better spot actually in the 6+ range of your draft, wherever spot you're drafting back there, because you don't have as many question marks coming back around to the 2-3 turn. Because at the 2-3
Right.
turn, that's where you have to decide, okay, do I like Tyreek Hill? Do I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to stay healthy? And if he does,
Right.
what's Tyreek Hill going to look like? He, missed a practice. He kind of seems like disengaged almost a little bit. And maybe we're
Mm.
wrong here, but then you've got, Marvin Harrison Jr. is another receiver right there where you're like, okay, we know he's talented. What's Kyler Murray going to do this season? And
Yeah.
then, so those are some question marks where if you're at the back half, you're able to get, like I said, maybe an Amon-Ra St. Brown, like you said, a Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas, and then come back with a running back and anchor your team with a running back there. And then, it gets to Jackson Smith and Jigba in the back half of the third.
Yeah.
Mike Evans is there. But I think to answer your question more directly, like after that fourth round, I think you're getting into receivers that are still going to be good, that can still prove themselves. But it's a Zay Flowers, it's a
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, who I still love Devontae Smith. I know some people don't, but you're getting into Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers, Travis Hunter range, which again,
Mm.
good guys, but do you really want them to be your second receivers on your team? Probably not, because the talent drop off from them to a JSN, a Mike Evans, who we know, what the targets are going to be like, what they're going to look like on their teams. I think
Yeah.
that's where I've seen a little bit of a talent drop off in terms of like, okay, where do you probably want another receiver before you get these guys in the 5th round?
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's good. Very good to know, because
Mhm.
as you said, there's always a drop off somewhere at a position, and it seems like it is as you said, the receiver, where you will get those Jerry Judys, and you said you don't want
Exactly.
those guys as your 2, maybe your definitely your 3
Mhm.
or 4 receiver. But if you have, like, say, you get Judy as your second receiver, that means you loaded up on running backs or other positions as well. But speaking
Yeah.
of the running back position, and put you on the spot, Saquon or Bijan, if you had to pick one, which
Oh,
one would you
don't
go
do
with?
this to me. Don't do this to
Already,
me.
right?
I'm going to this is why Courtney always keeps me on my toes during this show. I'm gonna do the cop-out answer, and I'm gonna
Okay.
say, because of how many, and I know you for sure, and people probably listening to this show too, we are in so many drafts that I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure it's probably pretty even, but I actually might go more to Bijan
Okay.
just because he's the young guy. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I will
sure.
say to people only doing like a couple of drafts, maybe 1 or 2, whatever it is, and that's great. It does not matter how many drafts you do. I'm okay with taking Saquon Barkley. I understand how people are really, I guess, nervous about, the carries he had last season, how much work he had going all the way into February, because of course, they went out and won that Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
it's understandable to say like, oh my gosh, he got so much work, and guys coming off a workload like that are prone to injuries, or there's no way that they're going to be able to go back and give him that same type of work again. But I don't know, Courtney, for every running back that we've talked about before, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But Saquon Barkley just feels like he could be that difference maker. He could
Yeah.
be the guy that we look back and we say, oh, we recorded this in early August, and we look back and we say, well, how stupid, because if anyone is going to be back to back, or is going to give us back to back RB1 finishes, would it not be someone like Saquon Barkley?
Right.
He fits the mold. He's just one of those guys where we obviously know the talent and everything else. Now, the other side with the Eagles is, okay, are they going to be able to run as much? Are they going to have to go through the air a little bit more? Because pass attempts per game, I believe they were dead last in the
Yep.
NFL last season, and then the Baltimore Ravens, were second to last. So people might look at the Eagles and say, well, they need a new recipe. They're going to have to throw a little bit more. But I would say, I think with my exposure that I've seen, I have taken more Bijan Robinson, but it's going to be a very close split down the middle, because I'm not going to be the one trying to fade Saquon Barkley. I just can't do it, because he'll probably, we'll look back, like I said, Courtney will be like, oh, well, duh. Of course he was able to do this again.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, I'm an Eagles fan, and it's
Oh, yeah.
and then even I'll go with either one too. And you said this depends where you fall in your draft, and
Mhm.
you have an opportunity to get either one. I don't, like you said, I'm with you. I agree. I think you can't fault any of those two picks at all. Do you go with the younger guy? Do you have faith in Saquon's going to get that same volume? I don't think he's going to get the same volume,
Mm-hmm.
but because I really feel like they're going to open it up even more with Jalen, and Jalen's more than capable of putting those numbers up. And he's been getting flack again for whatever reason, but he's more than capable of saying, okay, when I'm doubted, you see what I can do in these big games and everything too. And that gives a little bit, but I think they're going to save Saquon, down the stretch, especially if they're going on another Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
But I would never, like you said, again, like you never doubt Saquon, and
he
he could run another 2,000 yards again.
Exactly.
I mean, he would be one of the guys to do it. Right.
Like Derrick Henry. It's like, I'm never going to fade the king. People have asked me, like, when's the age cliff? I'm like, probably when he retires, to be totally honest. Like, we might not ever actually see it. It'll just be the year that he decides to hang up the cleats, and we'll be like, there it is. Then he's not going to be as productive because he's not out there. I cannot fade these guys.
No,
some of them.
they always put up numbers.
Exactly.
Like you said, you can't go I don't think you can go wrong with either one. And even Jahmyr Gibbs too. Like he's the next one up. And if he was in a different system, he could be just the number one. He still puts up numbers, even splitting carries as well in that all. But he's another guy that's at the bottom of the first round, in the middle of the bottom of the first round to select. One question I want to ask you about is QBs, and when I know it's always a question about quarterbacks. Do you pick a top tier? We talk about Hurst, talk about Lamar, Josh Allen, those top tier guys. Do you go early, or is it better to wait and get those next tier type of guys? That what you're seeing so far?
You know what? I love this question. I think this is such a great question because in years past, you ask me any other year besides this one, I'd say just wait. There's so much talent in the back, and I still believe there's talent. But I'll say this, Courtney. There's no guy that I'm pounding the table for like I did last year, and like a lot of people did for like a Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels going cute, outside the top 10, outside the top 12, even sometimes if you were drafting early. And I was pounding the table. I was saying this man should not be going. This quarterback, this kind of quarterback for fantasy football, who we know is going to use his legs, who can be good through the air. There's no reason that he should be going this late in drafts. And unfortunately, and maybe I'm proven wrong, but I know talent-wise that there is no one like a Jaden Daniels in this, in this quarterback class or anything like that in the back half this year. I think, there could be guys that, obviously outperform ADPs. And I think I'm waiting on, I'm comfortable waiting on guys like Drake May. I love Drake May this season. I love a Trevor Lawrence, a JJ McCarthy for a really late round sleeper. And those are guys I'm comfortable walking away with. Some more super flex, I'm talking, you might not have to, depending on the size of your league, walk away with a Drake May as your first quarterback taken, but they're not Jaden Daniels, right? They I think that they can outperform their ADPs, but it's no one like we said last season where Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 5, top 3 quarterback depending on who you talk to, and that's what happened with him. So Justin Fields you can throw into that. So this year for quarterbacks especially, I'm actually okay and comfortable taking one of the elite quarterbacks, and then if you do that, just know you do not have to take another quarterback. You really don't, depending on your bench spots. Like if you have a ton of bench spots, then okay, sure. But I see it so often, Courtney, where, someone gets a Lamar Jackson and then all of a sudden they still take a Trevor Lawrence. And I'm like, no, you're wasting a pick by taking that second quarterback. You can go to the waiver wire and it'll be okay during the bye weeks, but you don't need to waste a roster spot. Again, unless you have a ton of bench spots, you don't need to waste another spot with a second quarterback, because you can figure that out when the time comes. But yes, especially this season, a Joe Burrow. I've taken a lot of Joe Burrow because he's kind of like that last good tier. The other guys are good: Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix. But when we're talking about the elite tier 1, tier 2 guys, I think it stops at Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts is obviously in there. Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. So I have been, I've been actually more than okay, especially this season. Which I don't normally do, Courtney, taking one of those elite quarterbacks and then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the draft. That's all I'll say. You do not have to worry. But the other quarterbacks I mentioned, those are some late round guys that I've been, okay with taking. I'm actually really excited to see them because I do think that they have a path to fantasy football goodness. It's just not at the same level necessarily as Jaden Daniels last season.
That's a good point. And the last few years in my podcast league that we do every year, I was one of the ones that was taking a quarterback
Mhm.
early, not real early, but like third, fourth round.
Yeah,
And you're right, and I think you made a really good point. If you get one of those top 4 or 5 guys, I guess you could have said maybe Mahomes, add him in there. Um, then you said you don't have to worry about that, and you don't have to get a Jordan Love, as you said, or someone
exactly.
else. It's like, okay, now you can rack up on other positions and really stack your team up as well. If you get one of those elite guys, you said the top
Yeah.
5. But Joe Burrow is a guy. You said he's right there because of how much he throws. They throw the football, so they throw the football, and with those weapons on the outside that he has, he's just as lethal as the running quarterbacks, scrambling quarterbacks
Oh
like
yeah.
like a Lamar or Jalen and Jaden Daniels too. So yeah, I like that strategy. If you said you don't have to worry about quarterback, then
You don't have
if
to
you
worry about it.
yeah, if you get one of
Listen to
those
me.
top,
You
I say
can
good.
get through the bye weeks. You can get
Yeah.
through the bye weeks with your
Hmm.
one quarterback. Just pick up a streamer, and injuries happen. You never want to,
Yeah.
I mean, they happen, and if that happens to one of those top guys, then yes, we're obviously going to have to address it. But you don't want to draft scared and think that everyone's going to get hurt. Like I said, if it's past a certain point, if I'm drafting a Justin Fields, I'm definitely going to take a second quarterback
Yeah.
because we just
Right.
don't know. Once we get to those tiers of like, all right, even Jared Goff, he's another year older. Can't,
Yeah.
what happened? Can't even the JJ McCarthy's, the Caleb Williams, I'll still probably take
Yep.
another one because those guys we just don't know. But we know with those first 5 that what they're going to give you. And if an injury happens, that second quarterback probably wasn't going to help much anyway. So we'll have to
Right.
figure it out from there.
Yeah, because one year I had Hurts and Brock Purdy, and I said, okay, Brock Purdy's just sitting,
Yeah.
and Hurts was playing excellent, playing well throughout the year. I'm like, okay, man, I just, as you said, almost wasted a spot. I could have just got another receiver or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Running
I'm gonna
back.
go into
Yeah.
running back. I'm gonna go into this one. This one, if I get one of those top guys, that's it. And then you said now you don't have to worry. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about like what are some of the biggest mistakes you think fantasy football managers make year after year?
Ooh, a biggest mistake. Hopefully nothing because they're
Yeah,
listening to
hopefully
you
nothing.
and they're listening to me.
Yeah, hopefully
Um,
nothing. Right? Yes.
hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Yeah, yeah.
I see maybe just panic in the draft room, which
Right.
I think happens to everyone, right? And I think that's an easier answer. But if you see a run start to happen, whether it's running backs, wide receivers, whatever it is, I tend to see or I talk to people that say, well, I took this receiver even though I don't like him that much because there were so many receivers going off the board and I didn't want to miss
Mm,
out. And so,
man.
to me it's like it's always going into a draft with a plan, but being able to totally throw that plan out the window if we're going to be honest, probably by the second round because
Right.
nothing that we ever plan for happens
Happens.
very
Yes.
rarely. So,
Yep.
I think it's a mixture of that, making sure that yes, it's always great to have a plan, have your rankings set up, have your queue, have your tiers, whatever it is that helps you draft. But just know, you can zig when the board is zagging. You don't have to
Yeah.
follow those trends in the draft room just because other people are doing it. Sometimes when I see a run of like receivers, I look at my tiers and I say, okay, this could be my time to get a running back because in the back half, when they come back around, these guys are going to be needing to look for a running back here. Maybe there's maybe no other choice for them because they went out and got these receivers. So I think it's just paying attention to the draft room and not necessarily panicking and just really sticking with your tiers and rankings as well. And just knowing that even though these guys are going off the board, don't go and get someone like this receiver that you don't like as much as this other running back because these, for that example, those receivers are going off the board. And so just throw your plans in the trash, Courtney, because they don't usually work. But I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's some mistakes that I see. And ADPs, if we're on it as well, really quick here. ADPs to me, and what I always tell people is that they're a guide. You don't have to follow it 100%
Right.
though. If you have rankings or if you know an analyst that you love, you can get their rankings and tiers out and print them out. But ADP is just a guide. So if you want to go and get your guy and it's, a round or two early, that's okay because, maybe some other people have the same rankings as you and they also like an Emeka Egbuka and they want to get him
Right.
a little early too. That's one example that I saw in a draft that I just did. So ADP is a guide, but even if you see him and you have to scroll a little bit, it's okay to take him early. Yeah, your league mates might roast you and that's fine, but it's going to be better when you have a championship and it's because of one of these guys that you really liked and didn't wait
Yeah.
on for ADP.
Yeah, that's a good point. And as you said, if you're gonna get your guy, get your guy. Like
Get
you
your
might,
guy,
they
like your
always say,
team. Yeah.
If you say, oh, you reach for a quarterback, say in the second round, like, well, I like Josh Allen, he's right there. I'm gonna get him. And like you said earlier, now you got your QB. You know he's gonna put
Exactly.
up huge numbers, and he's gonna be one of the top 3, 4 quarterbacks. You don't have to worry about that position now,
Exactly.
and he's durable and all that. So yeah, I like that. And you're right about you have a plan and then it's just
Throw it
thrown out the
away.
window.
It never
So
works.
you never work. It's like it's like what Mike Tyson said. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. It's like it's kind of like
Exactly.
that. It's kind of like with fantasy. Like you have a plan until someone snipes you, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Usually
okay,
round two. I've
round
yet to
two.
make it out of a draft, Courtney,
Yeah,
where I'm like, oh, I feel great after the fourth
yeah,
round. It's like,
right,
no, I've
right.
had to basically blow up my plans. It's
Yeah.
fine.
You just blow the plan. Yep, that's it. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, just last year, I think I had got Malik Neighbors,
Mm.
if I can remember, second or third round, and he just kept falling and falling. I'm like, he wasn't even really on my radar because I thought he would be gone.
Mm.
And on the turn, I got him, and I was like, oh, okay.
Like, I
All
like
right, there you
this.
say,
I'm
there
good with
you go.
this.
I'm good with this. These picks, and then
I like
and then
that.
it just kept. And, it was a good year. So hopefully
No kidding.
this season it'll be
We'll do it again.
they'll do it again for sure, for sure. All right, well let's talk a little bit about the continued growth of women in fantasy football. As
Yeah.
I love to highlight women in this space that are doing excellent things in fantasy football just in general. Talk about the growth and has you seen and been a part of the trajectory of it keeps growing and growing, and more women and more talented women are just doing their thing on the content space. But talk about the growth of women in fantasy football.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, it's
Yeah,
just fun. Football, fantasy football, whatever. That's for everyone. And so it's
yeah,
so exciting to, have you, Courtney, you've always supported me in my work. You've got Sam
absolutely.
Holt on. Like it's amazing, I think. And it just shows that if you want to pursue this, you can. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter who you are. This space is built for anyone to come in and succeed if you want to. And so I think the growth, especially though, of women, like you said, the expo going on this weekend. I know they've got
Yeah,
women of fantasy. They've got Unwind down
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
I,
Shout out to
I just
online.
think
Yep.
it's so great that it's one of these spaces where it's like we say that everyone can be together, but then to be able to have a group like those two go down there and I was seeing pictures posted in our
Yeah,
DMs and stuff, and I was like, oh, first of all, I have FOMO. Second of all, this is amazing where it's just
yeah.
this space that's like constantly growing all around us, and I just think that it's been amazing to be a part of and to hopefully help be a voice, because I just, like I tell a lot of people, it's like we're always, the table is constantly getting longer, and I'm just here to
Mm-hmm.
help pull up as many seats as I can to that table, because I want to, no matter what, leave any space that I've started or that I've been in better than when I came in. And I think that's the goal for me every single time, and I think that's the goal for everyone else, is we're getting the folding chairs out, Courtney, we're
Yep.
getting whatever, like you can sit
Mm-hmm.
here on this, like the armrest, whatever you need to do, but let's pull up as many chairs to this table as we can. And I think that's the best part about seeing it grow, is just women and everyone getting more excited about it and just saying, hey, I'm going to make content here. And it's just I can't say any more great things about it. It's just been so fun to see the rise of it. And thank you for guys like you and everyone like you that have us on your podcast and everything to speak about it.
Absolutely, and I love seeing the growth of it. And I've had I got Kelly Singh coming up
Love
next
Kelly.
week. Yeah, yeah, love Kelly as well. I've had Tootsie Pot Rachel from
Yes.
Unwind. Yep, she, as you said, she was just, I had her on a couple weeks ago, and we were just talking about how she's got that. She was just excited to have a platform at the
Yeah.
Fantasy Football Expo to host a round table. When you've been a part of that
Oh yeah.
before, at the Fantasy Football Expo, of having something like that, and just talk and you said have the table, and it keeps growing and growing, and there's more space for it too. So
Exactly. There's space
I
for everyone.
it's just for everyone for sure. I love seeing it as well.
Hmm.
All right, just got a couple more before I let you
Oh
go,
yeah. Let's
and
keep going.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we can go
Oh,
on for
like we'll
hours.
keep going. I
And
was
we'll
gonna
keep
say
going if we
you
have
and
a
I could
time
go. We'll
tap.
be like, oh no, it's dinner time. We gotta
At
go,
dinner
I
time,
guess.
yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. But what makes a good? I've been asking all the women on this show,
Mm.
what makes a good fantasy football manager?
Ooh, a good manager. Well,
Mhm.
hopefully, anyone that subscribes to Fantasy Life,
Yeah,
for
there you
sure.
go.
But I
Yes.
think no, I think a good fantasy football manager, and one and people that win, championships, because that's the ultimate goal. We love this. If you're doing this for fun, it's great. I know a lot of people, do high stakes, Courtney, and it's like we
Oh
put
yeah.
we put some serious money into this, and so I think what makes a good fantasy football manager is really the manager part. It's the year. It's not necessarily year round, but in season, you have to be pretty locked in, and that's with
Yeah.
any kind of reports starting at training camp. I think we're in the thick of draft season right now, and some people are just coming in, and that's totally fine. But I think you have to realize there's been a lot of news, and there's been a lot of updates from July 1st going into OTAs, going into training camp, and so I think the management part is just reading and trying to read and just get as much information as you can day in and day out, which I know is difficult for people. But if you find the right people that you like to follow, like I try and post on TikTok every single day for my followers to let them know any injury news. Listening to Sirius XM, Adam and I are on at 7 a.m. Pacific time weekdays. But I think what makes a good manager is just always trying to consume content, and then making moves early. And that's a
Mm,
really hard part, but that's what the part that I'm trying to get to is, like, if you see, for example, like we've seen the Chris Godwin news. Okay, there's not really a
yeah.
timetable for him to return, and people are still drafting him, which I love. I love Chris Godwin and that ankle injury, but it's taking news and making it actionable. Making it
Mm,
actionable and saying, okay,
yeah.
well, if we're hearing in late, mid-August, whatever it is right now, that Chris Godwin doesn't have a clear timeline to return, I'm going to then reach on Emeka Egbuka. I like Emeka Egbuka way more now than I did right when he was drafted
Right.
in whatever month the draft is. I can't even remember. April.
April.
Yeah, April. Because in April we said, "Oh, this sucks. This is a really crowded receiver room. They've got a lot of weapons there. They've got a lot of mouths to feed." And now we're getting into the middle of August, and it's like, no, I'm going to reach on Emeka Egbuka because he could be a league winner because of this news with Chris Godwin, or Mike Evans is turning 32 years old this season.
Yeah.
So it's not only consuming the news, but then taking action after it. I know Adam, who's my co-host on Sirius XM, does such an amazing job, and it's different because we're in the industry, so we always get the updates and stuff. But he has taught me very well that if we see news, go to the waiver wire right away, and
Yeah.
just pick someone up because of it. It might not work out, but if you're telling me that maybe we see Malik Neighbors kind of with a toe injury, I always see Adam in the leagues that we're in, and it's so annoying, Courtney, because he picks those guys. He picks up Jalen
Yep.
McMillans. He picks up these guys off waivers that are you don't even think about in the moment, and then you're like, oh well, duh, this it should have
Yeah.
been picked up. So
Right.
always taking action, even when you see the littlest piece of news, if you can, on waivers. And then I think the last one that makes a good manager is on the waiver wire, working a couple weeks ahead. Because you
Mhm.
never want to be the person, we've got a bye Mageddon. I think we only have one, but it's week 8, where we have really good teams on a bye, a lot of really good teams on a bye in week 8. And so you don't want to wait till the Tuesday before week 8 starts and say, oh, I need to pick up my quarterback. You need to be looking at that a couple weeks back, because all the good ones are probably going to be gone, or you're going to have to
Right.
spend a lot of money on them and spend a good amount of your fab. So working a couple weeks ahead if you can with waivers, especially when it comes to your bye weeks, I think that's definitely, all those things are what makes a good manager, especially the in-season management, and how important it is.
I love it. I love that. Is you're
Yeah,
right because it doesn't. I mean, yes, the legwork starts now. The
for
drafting
sure.
that's just part of it. But you're right. Waiver wire, staying locked in, reading as much news as possible.
Mhm.
Because you never. I mean, look, Terry McLaurin, he's looking for a new contract. So
Exactly. James
there's
Cook
news
hasn't
there.
been out there. I mean,
Yeah,
Ladd
yeah,
McConkey hasn't practiced in
right.
however many. It's like
See,
it's just
yeah,
those little things where, again, we're like you said, it's perfect what you just said. We're building the foundation right now,
yep,
and we
hmm
hope that it has really good legs to stand on. Injuries happen all the time, though,
right,
and you can still don't give up. I think that's the other best piece of advice that I
right,
always give, and that I always like to tell people. It's like you could be when you're 0-3, 0-4, 1-3, 1-4. It's really tough to come back from that, but there you can do it. Yeah,
yeah,
there's too many people that give up too early, and then it's like, no, if you work the waiver wire correctly and you have a couple just good weeks that swing your way, you can come back from that. And we've
yeah.
we've helped a lot of people come back from season starts like that, and it's proof that people know it can happen.
It can happen for sure, and
Yeah,
I've done that before too.
yeah.
I was like 0-4 at one point in our league 'cause I think it was the year Chris McCaffrey got hurt. This was
Hmm.
a few years ago. It might have been Saquon. It was one of the two, and I think it was Chris McCaffrey. He got hurt, and I went and was 0-4. He was number one pick. I had the number one pick. I was 0-4, and then it was like people are like, "Oh, you're done. You're not." And I was like, "Well, okay, I'm going to work the
No,
waiver wire. Chris McCaffrey's going to be back, so it's just pump the brakes."
exactly.
And next thing you know, like you said, you get on a win streak, 4 or 5 games, you're back at 500, and then everyone else is scared. That's what you see.
Exactly. You're like, "Oh, wait, who told me that I was
That was
done?
like,
Why don't you
yeah,
step to the front now?"
yeah, 4 weeks ago. Yes, and then say it in the back too. All everyone hear it in the
Right.
back too.
Louder.
Yeah, say it louder in the back. Yes,
That's
but
all you
yeah,
need. All you need
yeah,
is, I mean, people were picking Baker Mayfield up off the waiver wire last season. That was a
yeah,
league winner, and you were getting him
yes,
off waivers. Sam Darnold, like it happens too
it
often.
happens.
So never give up.
Never
Never
give
give
up
up.
and have fun. Have some
Have
fun. Like I said,
fun. Like your
even
teams never give up.
yeah, high stakes,
Yeah,
whatever it is, have fun. Have fun with it. You
exactly.
want to win for sure, but have fun as well.
Yes,
Have fun doing
exactly.
it for sure. And talking about Sam Darnold, I got to get into your Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, let's do it.
And yeah, and everything. And what's your take? What's the pulse of your Seattle? What's your
Oh,
expectations for your Seahawks? Great defense.
great
Great
defense.
defense. Great defense. And now they got Sam Darnold. They lost Geno Smith.
Mhm.
Um, but what's your take as a Seahawks
Oh,
fan?
Courtney.
What's your yes? Gotta we always got to talk about the Seahawks always.
I'm trying so hard to be optimistic.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'm
Okay.
hoping that Sam Darnold outperforms my expectations, because my
Mm,
expectations
yeah.
for him are actually unfortunately low. And it's one of these things where we saw such a great season out of him last year. But I look around at what he had. First of all, Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. And I
Yes.
think he doesn't get enough credit for what he was able to do, especially in fantasy football with Kirk Cousins, with, Sam Darnold last season. Like there's just been, and hopefully what he's going to do with JJ McCarthy this season. I
Yeah.
just think that there's so many good qualities about Kevin O'Connell that he's able to give to his quarterbacks. And not to say that Mike McDonald and Clint Kubiak on our new offensive coordinator isn't going to be able to do that, but he had a great coach out there. He had a better offensive line. I think that's the one thing that I'm worried about most. I love that they went out and got Gray Zabel. That was
Yeah.
that
Good
was their
pick.
first round pick. And
Yeah.
I loved Gray Zabel. I was pounding the table for Gray Zabel weeks before the draft, and I'm happy they did that. But Sam Darnold under pressure is not pretty. He's not
Right.
someone that we're saying, oh, there he goes. He's scrambling and he's able to get out of this and save his life and use his legs, because he's just not that guy. When he has pressure applied to him, he just kind of crumbles a little bit. So the offensive line really is what still worries me the most for Sam Darnold. And then, when he did have pressure last season, he was throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan
Yeah.
Addison, who is a phenomenal. And listen, I love JSN to the moon, but JSN is no Justin Jefferson. And so
Right.
to be able to, and they had, TJ Hawkinson, I can't forget about him. You had Aaron Jones back there as well. So it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, JSN is not Justin Jefferson, but I am holding out hope that he really does, do well than what I've expected him. But I haven't taken, if I've taken anyone, it's Jackson Smith and Jigba for the
Yeah.
receivers, and that makes me a little bit nervous about his transition and how that's going to go. But we know he's going to get peppered with targets. But I've actually been taking, and then Kenneth Walker, we hope he stays healthy, right? If
Yeah.
not, if you're drafting Kenneth Walker, I know Zach Charbonnet is expensive, but you need to handcuff them together,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
6 games last season for Kenneth Walker, excuse me, that he missed. was just brutal. And if that happens again, Zach Charbonnet is going to get a ton of work, because that Clint Kubiak offense that we know is that he is going to get more of the passing work. And that's going to be a cheat code for Kenneth Walker if he's able to stay healthy and do it. So I'm excited for the running backs. I'm excited for JSN. Late round sleepers that I've loved to take over the last couple of weeks have been Torrey Horton, because I believe Torrey Horton can beat out Marquez Valdez-Scantling, almost like anyone can. Courtney, I think you and I could go out there and I could beat out, Marquez Valdez. I don't know what's going on. That he's on that team, and I want to say that Cooper Kupp's going to be good, but I don't think he is. I think we've seen the best behind him, and his age has caught up to him, unfortunately. But Torrey Horton is someone that I've really liked to take late rounds. Sometimes he'll probably be on most waiver wires, to be totally honest. And then Arroyo for tight ends over there is someone I've liked to take late as well.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I think Seattle, they're in that, and especially in that division too. You just never know who's gonna come out of that division.
Exactly.
But it is up to Sam Darnold. The offensive line can protect him. Can he be the guy he was in Minnesota? I mean, you broke it down. Like I said, yes, the receivers are not Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is one of those guys that's just quarterback proof. He just knows, like,
doesn't matter who's out there.
No, he still puts up numbers. He's just that good. And the quarterbacks are very smart to know, okay, we got to give this guy the football. It's like that.
Exactly.
So,
right. He was going, remember when JJ McCarthy went down with injury, and then they were like, it's going to be Sam Darnold, and people were fading a little bit of Justin Jefferson. And I was like, what's going on? This is still JJ. Like, it does, you could throw a scarecrow out there and it does not matter. He's still going to catch passes. He's just that good. So
it's just that good.
And not that I don't think that Jackson Smith and Jigba is that, but it's not to the same level. And just Sam Darnold under pressure. We'll just have to see. I think their win total's at 7.5. And if you ask me right now, I'd take the under. But I really hope I'm wrong about that.
Right, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And you're right. It's all depends on, you said, what Sam Darnold you're going to get. Are you going to get the Sam Darnold that we saw for the first 13 weeks, or are you going to get that towards the end of the year, as you said, when pressure got to him and the mistakes and things like that? That's
exactly.
It'd probably be a little bit of in the middle, probably a little bit of both. I think Sam Darnold now, maybe later in his career, that he knows, like, okay, I can still be a good quarterback, and I can really help this team win some games. But I'm with you too. I think I'll take the under now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do win 8-9 games too. So
it'd be nice. It would be really nice. Yeah. And let me say, Jalen Milroe in Dynasty is someone to just get to keep stash. Yeah. You're not going to use him probably unless Sam Darnold did go down with an injury, which would be unfortunate. But Jalen Milroe, what he could bring with his legs, that's fantasy relevance right there. So if anyone's in Dynasty, just keep an eye on Jalen Milroe if you can go and get him.
No doubt. Yes, for sure. All right. Last question. I thought of this question. I said, I got to ask Kendall this question. It says, if you were the commissioner or head of fantasy football, whether if you're, like you said, if they had if you're just a head of fantasy football in general, what is one thing you would change about the landscape of fantasy football?
Oh, change about the lens. Oh, I'm going to go full Ian Hartitz here. Ban kickers, ban defenses. We don't need them. Okay. What are you doing? That's it. I would, like, if that's it, then I'm doing that. Yeah. If you're in a league right now and you need that, it's so much more fun with flex spots. It is so much more fun to have more flex spots than having to draft a kicker or a defense. And I know a lot of people probably say that answer to you, but if it's me and I'm your commissioner, because people know I'm commissioner for a few of my friends in a couple leagues, it's just, that we're not going to get kickers and defenses. It's just not, it's not in the wheelhouse. And I just think that it's, again, way more fun to have 3 flex spots than it is to have to draft at the very end. You're like, okay, what kicker, what defense, because these guys aren't going to, like, they can help you get to a fantasy championship, but those guys aren't going to be winning you fantasy championships. It's those late round running backs at the very end of your drafts that could climb up depth charts, that are the guys that, the Chase Browns of the world, the Bucky Irvings that were going way too late last season. Not that that's where we draft kickers or defenses, but that would be my thing. It's like, we're done across all platforms. We don't have them. And now you get more flex spots. Enjoy, everyone.
Yes, enjoy. So yes, we're voting Kendall as the head of fantasy football, just in general, and just get rid of defenses and kickers, because, like, you're right. I wait to the last 2 rounds
exactly
in the league. And I was like, okay, what defense is here? Okay,
There's
they
no
should be.
reason.
Oh, we changed defensive. I mean, I stream a defense. I just release a defense. I get them on waiver wire. Kickers, same thing. Okay, who's
Yeah.
got the best kicker? Top 2 or 3 kickers of each week.
I
I'll
just
just
use
go with them.
ADP. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
exactly. I'm
is.
like, okay, this is what ESPN's telling me. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
believe
yes.
them.
Yep,
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
yes.
believe them. Yeah,
I'll just take this kicker for the week. They give me
get rid of
9,
them.
12 points. There
Get
you
rid of
go.
them.
So yeah, get rid
That's
of
me.
them. Yep, I love that. I love that. All right, well, Kendall, it has been a pleasure
Oh,
catching up with you, and it's like I said, a long time coming. I'm just so glad that we was able to carve out some time
mhm.
and really just to get to talk and discuss and things like that, break down some things is always a pleasure to be here with you. But let everyone know where they can find you, they can
Yeah.
follow you, that the promo code, all
Yes.
those things.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me back, Courtney. You are
Yeah,
one of the best, and I just love coming on anytime that you ask. So we'll have to do it again sooner rather than later. We can't let
for
can't let
sure.
a couple years go by.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
and yeah, for everyone listening again, we talked at the beginning of the episode, but fantasylife.com, that's where you can go and sign up for the newsletter. That's 100% free in your inbox 7 days a week, and that's great insight, intel. Like I said, it's really hard to draft, but it's even harder for the in-season management. So we're here to help you with that. And same with all of our tools at fantasylife.com. So we've got a lot of upgrades to basically everything. I mean, our rankings are updated every single day. We've got tools like the ADP tool. We've got projections. We've got a trade analyzer there for you. Draft Champion. If you're unable to get into if you want to get ready for your drafts, we've got a mock draft simulator. That's amazing. And of course, you can sync all of your leagues. So all of our content can be curated to your leagues, to your league settings, and to your roster as well. So it is absolutely the best. GuillotineLeagues.com too. If you want a new format, a new way to play fantasy football, Guillotine Leagues is really fun and new. And so you can go to GuillotineLeagues.com. We've got paid leagues, we've got free leagues as well. And if you want to do any of that, you can use my code Kendall20, KENDALL 20, gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription at fantasylife.com. So that's right at checkout. You can use that code Kendall20 and get 20% off.
All right, and I will put that in the video as well,
Woo!
Kindle 20, so that everyone that can use that code and get on Matthew Berry Fantasy Life, MB Fantasy Life, definitely check it out. Check out all of Kindle's work and like, subscribe, share all those
Yes,
things, and do all those things. Reach out if you have any questions and anything too. So again,
absolutely.
Kendall, thank you again for being part of this of my women in fantasy football series. I really, really appreciate you and always, and thank you again. Best of luck, many blessings on all things you got going on, and best of luck with this season as well. Before we go, how many leagues are you in? I think I ask you this every time.
Oh,
But how many
oh,
leagues are you in? Do
don't
we
do
even have to
this.
announce? I
I
don't do
think
that
I'll
to you.
end up in 16 or 17 this year,
Okay,
just full
okay,
redraft, which is a little bit lower. And then underdog, we
right.
just, we're
Yeah, you
drafting
just
every
build
day
up
on
on
underdog.
underdog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we
just
just do.
drafting every day.
Yeah,
But
we do the underdog.
you know
Yes.
it. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
16 or 17 probably will end up, unless, it's the last minute ones, Courtney, that always get me,
Yeah.
that always get me
Yes.
to 20
Mhm.
every year. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
yeah, we'll just do one
We'll
more.
do
What's
another
one
one.
more?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I had to
bad.
turn down a league. I turned down one.
Exactly. That's what I'm
I
trying
just
to do.
yeah,
Oh
I
my
turned down one
gosh.
just recently. I was like, nah, I
Can't do it.
can't do it. And I do DraftKings. I do all those other ones too.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Love
but
it.
again, thank you, Kendall, once again for your time. Really appreciate it, and best of luck. And we'll
You
talk soon.
too. Perfect.
All right. You have a good one.